We will huff another daily dose of Classic Plus Copium. That's the only thing that keeps us going. I think we need to wait a month until Blizzard actually confirms everything we spoke about. Man, I just really wish it would be sooner.
2026
I'm
is very
so
much
dejected,
appearing
man.
as though it will be the year of Classic Plus, and when this version of the game finally drops, it has some absolutely enormous potential, and perhaps no area more so than when it comes to raiding. Raiding has always been a huge part of World of Warcraft, and personally one of my favourite areas of the game, and when you consider the lore of the vanilla world as well as unfinished concepts that already exist, Blizzard have so many potential areas they could turn into raids. None of these are official or confirmed, of course, they're just speculation on my part, and some of them will be more popular theories which you'll have probably heard of, to some ones which I think personally could fit in the world. So with that said, let's begin. So I want to start with one of the strangest loose ends in the original game. If you've quested through Ashenvale and Duskwood back in the day, you may have stumbled onto a quest chain called the Scythe of Elune. And if you've quested through this chain, you'll know we never really got a proper answer to it. The quest chain starts all the way over in Ashenvale, where you're
I don't
sent
remember
into the
this one.
Howling Vale to investigate the Worgen threat. There you find a priestess named Valinda Starsong had been granted a mysterious artifact called the Scythe of Elune to fight against the demon threat, but after having summoned the Worgen, they found they couldn't stop summoning them, and so Valinda would eventually hear of a mage in the Eastern Kingdoms, Aragorn, who had also summoned the Worgen and was planning to take the staff to him to see
We
what
took
could be
care of
done
him.
about it. However, on her journey there, she met her end in Duskwood at an explosion in Roland's Doom. After that, none other than Jitters would discover the Scythe and accidentally summon the Worgen into Duskwood as well. And the quest series just sort of ends there. Now during Legion, of course, we do recover the staff and it's used as an artifact weapon, but there's an
Whoa.
interesting alternative route the quest could take here. One
Wait, that's actually pretty dope. How haven't I heard of this? Man, it's so crazy that after playing WoW for so long, there's so many like small stories I haven't even heard of. Really, they need to flash out these stories more in Classic Plus. I agree. I agree 100%. Like they should definitely make these stories like the entire premise of the game. WoW need to be story related again. And it shouldn't be about Zealoteth feat or anything those weird Labubu millennials write about. You should hire like competent OG writers.
If the Scythe of Elune did actually make its way to Archmage Aragorn over in Silverpine Forest, imagine a raid on Gilneas with the empowered Worgen and him as a potential final boss, wielding
Yes.
this legendary weapon, which then players could obtain afterwards somehow perhaps. I think just having another story where the Worgen join the Alliance is kind of played out, we don't need to go down that route again necessarily, but a potential raid involving Archmage Aragorn, a battle for Gilneas, and the Worgen threat could be something that really ties together a bunch of storylines.
I agree. Also, Gilneas City in Turtle WoW, rest in peace, was very, very good. I enjoyed that dungeon. It was one of the weakest ones they've made, but still, it was like very, very fun. I enjoyed that dungeon. It was very cool. I would be glad if it was a dungeon or a raid. Regardless, I just want like Blizzard to make it good.
And gives players an opportunity for a brand new legendary too. The next one I want to talk about could be in Un'Goro Crater, because Un'Goro has always felt like it's hiding something. And in vanilla, the importance of Un'Goro within the world is a little bit understated, and it's built upon in future expansions. In later versions of the game, we find out there's Titan facilities here, and Un'Goro was very much used as a place to create new beings and see what would happen. And that's where there could potentially be some grounds for a new raid here in Classic Plus too. Maybe we could uncover a Titan facility here somewhere. There could be a raid of pretty much entirely dinosaurs, or then again there could be titanic creations that went horribly wrong, as in a raid full of mutants and haywire titanic constructs and that sort of thing. It could also open up a bunch more lore about what goes on in Un'Goro during a vanilla setting and its importance within the world. Next is definitely a bit more of a popular one. If you've ever done Reputation with the Timbermaw Furbolgs, you'll know Timbermaw Hold is one of the strangest and most underused places in.
And it exists in Turtle WoW. Man, it's crazy how much the people who made Turtle WoW actually cared about the lore and stuff, and Blizzard doesn't give a shit. It's so sad to see, really.
in the game. It's not just a tunnel connecting Felwood to Winterspring and Moonglade, there is also a second entrance all the way over in Azshara, so there could be speculations that the Hold runs this entire way underground, and not just the very small bit that we see. And what a lot of people want to see is a raid where this is opened up. Perhaps the entrance should be in Azshara though, as it is a very underused zone at the moment, and we could definitely use one or two more things there. Then again, perhaps Timbermaw Hold was sealed off by the Furbolgs for the safety of everyone else. What if the Furbolg there fell to corruption and they had to be sealed away? We don't know what's happened in there, but it would be very interesting to see. Another faction I'd like to see expanded on a bit more are the Syndicate within vanilla World of Warcraft. They're already a very mysterious faction that we never really find out too much about. As far as we know, they're Alterac nobility who are stripped of their land, and in response to that they turn to banditry and thievery. What's notable is that vanilla treats Strongguard as a real unresolved conflict too, with the Alliance and the remaining Strongguard military trying to dislodge the remaining Syndicate members from their former capital, and they haven't managed it yet.
Yes, because their leader, if I'm not mistaken, like betrayed the Alliance, so we had to go and punish him. And that's what happened. It happened in Warcraft, I think, right? Something like that?
What I'd like to see is potentially a raid on Strongguard as a follow-up from the open world zone that already exists there. Then again, there could be a Syndicate base up in the Alterac Mountains where they've been holding their operations. I think it would be interesting too, because a lot of time raids are against very open factions who are either doing something really bad or who are obviously a problem. The Syndicates are definitely a bit more on the down low, and perhaps a raid on their hideout could have more traps and less focus on just direct boss encounters. The next one's definitely a more popular fan theory, and that's revisiting Azshara again. So you may well know that in early vanilla there was actually a submerged instance portal set out in Azshara that was speculated to be a raid surrounding the Naga, and the Naga within vanilla are absolutely a very present threat across a whole bunch of zones, so I think it would only make sense for them to be explored in a raiding setting too. As for the setting for this raid though, well, let me just say I doubt it will be underwater. Blizzard have kind of had their attempts at doing underwater content several times over the years in World of Warcraft. And suffice to say, I don't think they'll be revisiting it in a vanilla setting. Maybe they'll put in the one underwater boss, kind of like the Blackwater Behemoth during Azshara's Eternal Palace in BFA, but outside of that I would expect the rest of the raid to be on land, both because I think it will be easier for Blizzard to design and that's just what players prefer. The next one is a raid idea which technically already exists, and I'm sure Blizzard will reuse it, and that will be for the Scarlet Crusade. Similar to a Naga-themed raid, a Scarlet Crusade-themed raid has been something people have wanted forever, and in Season of Discovery, right towards the end of its life cycle, Blizzard finally made that happen and introduced the Scarlet Enclave, bringing in tons of new powerful gear, new lore, and even the Ashbringer to a vanilla setting. And all I can say is I'm sure they're not going to let that work go to waste in one way or another. It could return as an endgame raid, though the gear would need to be toned down significantly, or then again maybe Blizzard make it into a level up raid instead, kind of like how Black Fathoms Deep or Nomagun were during Season of Discovery. Either way, again, I think Blizzard are not going to let all that work they did on the Scarlet Enclave go to waste, and we'll see it return in one way or another. Another place I'd love to see expanded on would be Grim Batol over in the Wetlands. Now you only really see the entrance to this place if you're doing the Onyxia Attunement quest on the Horde specifically. For Alliance players I wouldn't be—
Wait, isn't that where Turtlewow did Dragon's Maw Retreat? If I'm not mistaken about that? God damn, man, Turtlewow did everything right. It would be stupid of Blizzard not to copy them to the fullest, honestly. It would be just so... And I know that Blizzard started their project kind of before that, so the chances of this happening is slim to none. But I really wish they'd learn from them. I really wish that would happen.
Be surprised if you've never even been there in game, because it's not exactly the easiest to get to, or there's not really many reasons to go there either because it's just a big door. But the lore behind it is really interesting. Originally it was a Wild Hammer Dwarf stronghold before the Second War. Sometime afterwards the Dragonmaw clan seized it and used it as their base of operations. The Orcs also used it as a staging ground to breed dragons, and Alexstrasza was even held there for a time. But after she was free, Grim Batol was sealed away, and these many years later it still remains a big point of mystery. What still remains in there? Could there be an instance involving the Dragonmaw Orcs? Or then again perhaps the Twilight Hammer get involved as they do in Cataclysm, and the instance is full of elementals with some dragons too. Whatever they end up doing with Grim Batol, I'm sure it's going to be an interesting instance one way or the other though. After that is one of the most legendary raids in WoW history, which I'm sure we will also see make a return.
Karazhan.
Now, Karazhan has always been sitting there in vanilla. Even during the alpha and beta stages of the game, Blizzard were already working on Karazhan. And during vanilla, it's just sitting there ominously in the Deadwind Pass, waiting to be used. Finally, when TBC came around, Blizzard would end up finishing it, and it's a...
And not only that, in Extremis, you could have created the weapon that would actually teleport you to Karazhan. I think it was like in Nax, right? I'm not mistaken about that. Like, that was very, very dope. That was so cool. They got to it in TBC, and it was like a phase 1 thing. But yeah, it would definitely be dope to see that in Classic Plus. There's so many things Classic, like there's so many forms and things Classic Plus can take. It just truly, there's so much room for innovation. But I don't trust Blizzard to do it. That's the problem.
That people love. In fact, people love Karazhan so much that Blizzard even brought it back during Legion as a 2-part mega dungeon. So I will not be surprised at all when in some shape or form Karazhan ends up being instance content once again. Perhaps there could even be an open world aspect to it where you need to investigate the tower and it could be used for questing, and then there's an instance in there too somewhere. Also during Season of Discovery, Blizzard made the Karazhan Crypts. This was a 5-man dungeon on a lockout, which introduced a brand new darkness mechanic where somebody had to carry a torch, and really explored this legendary location. Again, similar to the Scarlet Enclave, I do believe they will bring the Karazhan Crypts back because it just doesn't make sense to waste all that time and effort that they spent on it. However, this shouldn't take away from the potential Karazhan has as an actual raid. A raid that differs from the TBC version again, because as good as the TBC version is, that's very much its own thing. What I'm looking for out of Classic Plus is to see Blizzard do their own thing and imagine things in a fresh way. Another one which is very easy to overlook, I think, is the fact that Dalaran exists in vanilla World of Warcraft. It's not a floating city though, as it is in Wrath or Legion. It's just a mysterious purple bubble sitting over in the Alterac Mountains. And I think some kind of instance or raid reopening Dalaran could be really interesting. What is sitting inside that purple bubble? What's been locked away for all these years? Maybe you could even get the Syndicate involved or some rogue mage faction. Perhaps there are wild elementals or magical traps.
I mean, they just didn't get to finish it, man. It's not that deep. It's just, yeah. It's like, it's the bubble of coming soon.
Perhaps. It could even be something where we retake Dalaran and then it ends up being some kind of new faction hub over in this location. Similar to many of these, there's a huge amount of potential here, and I know I'd love to see Dalaran explored in a vanilla setting. And last but not least, why not finally get a proper pirate raid in vanilla? There is tons of pirate threats across the whole different bunch of zones, including Tanaris and Stranglethorn Vale already. But for the most part, pirates are only a threat in the open world and involved with questing. So I think there is...
Dude, I love pirates more than anything. There's a reason why the Dead Mines is like one of my all-time favorite dungeons. I agree. I agree. You should do a pirate raid. A full pirate raid. I agree.
There's a huge amount of potential there to see them brought to instance content. Maybe there's kind of a raid on
I
Beachy
love
Bay,
Daenerys
or there's
so
a
much
pirate
for that.
stronghold that's found that we can go and visit and see if we can take some loot back from them for once. A raid against a larger South Sea threat or the Bloodsail pirates could be super interesting to see, and it would almost certainly give us a reason to go to some lesser visited places in the world too. But those are just 10 places I think Classic Plus could look at for raiding content without doing anything too extravagant or unnecessary within a vanilla world. These are already a bunch of existing threats within the world, or places which have been set out which were finally used in later expansions. So what do you think of these 10 ideas? Were there any that you definitely expect to see? And was there anything you hadn't thought of yourself yet which you heard and you thought, actually that sounds pretty cool, I'd like to see that too? Let me know in the comments down below. And
damn, great video. Great video. I'm gonna leave a link for that, guys, so you can share your love to him, give him a like. But goddamn, there's so much unexplored potential with Classic. And I mean, don't get me wrong, most of these things were introduced in like later expansions, but I don't think their iteration were that great. Because most of the time Blizzard just focused on a new expansion. Cataclysm did introduce like massive changes, but not all of them were great. So I really hope that in Classic Plus they would kind of learn the lesson and, you know, make it in a proper settings, but I highly doubt that. Yeah, they have like 10 years of content there for taking. Easy. Everything is up for grabs. Literally, Blizzard can be on an infinite money glitch roll if they just do it right. Like, I would resub, everyone would resub for their game. And they have, I'm telling you, the moment they make Classic Plus good, they're going to see numbers they haven't seen before. And I'm talking about, like, potentially Wrath of the Lich King numbers. Yeah, not all pirates are cool. Some of them obsessed with ferrets. Fuck. I instantaneously understood that reference. You shouldn't have made that. You shouldn't have made that. Yeah, they're probably too obsessed with, like, going to the toilet and then lying they came up with solution to video games as well. And yeah, I don't know, just hating consumer rights. Yeah, true.